This says it's the only guide I'm ever gonna need or ever going to need and special tips. I highly doubt that. But let's go ahead and watch and see what they have to say.
Yo, what is up guys? Welcome back or welcome to the channel
What's
as
up? I'm
usual.
standing on
So
you.
today I have like something
Don't
special
mind me.
for you where basically I'll break
Doop,
down
doop, doop, doop.
every single little detail, including the things that the big guilds don't even want to share with you to get you prepped not only for the
I don't
open
even
beta,
join a
but
guild
for the release
yet.
as well. If you watch this video until the end very carefully, I guarantee
Wait, I should
you
move
that
myself,
you will
huh?
easily get 98 to 99% of the knowledge you need in this game, and what's left is
Whoop,
going to
wrong
be
way.
what you need to learn by playing, because there are some things that I will not be able to teach you if you don't play, but I'm going to give you all the information that you need to get you prepped for both the open beta and the release, and to be able to make the most
By the
out
way,
of
open
your
beta is over.
specifically. With that out of the way,
It just
let's get
ended
right
by
into
the
it.
time of this recording.
Before I
So,
get into the juice of this video, there are 3 things that I want to give you.
yeah, I heard, I don't know if it's true, I'm pretty sure it is, but you lose all your stuff because they even let you use like cash items as a preview for the open beta, but basically everything is wiped during the open beta. Open beta is over. Now we have to wait for the official game to come out. So now, yeah. Apparently you can pre-order the game to have like, what was it, 5 days ahead or something, which I think is kind of dumb. But yeah, there's that. Also, I think I personally would not get it 5 days ahead because I'm not competitive. If I was a competitive player, I would try to get it as soon as possible and then try to constantly stay rank 1 kind of thing, but I'm not, so that's unnecessary for me. Plus, I heard it's also pay to win because of the auction house. But maybe this guy will cover it and let us know some tips that'll keep us free to play. Hopefully.
Early on, like, think of them as tips, I would say, and that is in regards to the tutorial. These 3 things might actually be annoying if you run into them, but usually you don't, but if you do, here they are. The number 1 thing is the block bug. So early on in the tutorial, when you are doing the tutorial early, in the beginning of it, you will have a time where the game will teach you how to block, and if you don't have, like, by default the Q is the block. If you don't have the English keyboard, or for whatever reason you change the hotkey because we'll have a pre-download, maybe you will just log into the game before the game launches and decide to mess around with your hotkeys. If you do any of that stuff, you sometimes run into a bug where, like, you would click the key that you should be using for block. It would even show you the key that you will be using for block, but it would not let you block. You'll just be stuck. So in that instance, my recommendation is that when you first start the game, when you get the option to choose between action combat or tap target, start the game with tap target, because that will fix your issue with these kinds of bugs. All you need to do is drag the mouse and click the skill where it shows in the middle of your screen. Click on it with your mouse, and that will do.
You think that's a thing because this game is gonna be mobile?
To the second tip, which is switching weapons.
I feel like this game is gonna be mobile, right?
Part of the tutorial where it will ask you to switch weapons. Sometimes it could bug where, like, you can't switch the weapon. So, like, over here it shows you the hotkey at the bottom, but sometimes it just doesn't let you for whatever reason. Same thing, keyboard issue, whatever it may be. What you can do in that instance is, once again, drag the mouse into this icon over here, click on it, and it will change the weapon for you, because it will need you to change from the great sword to the bow so that you can attack the target that is above. And lastly, in the tutorial, you will get to a point in the tutorial that I'm showing here on the screen where you will open a chest. When you open that chest, you simply get all the weapons in the game as gray weapons in your inventory. So you choose whatever 2 weapons you want to equip, simply press B, and then drag the first weapon to the
I'm hoping he covers this, but like me personally, when I'm playing this, what ends up happening is I decided my main weapons and then I stuck with them while progressing because I don't want to lose any of my my skills or abilities and mastery, because those take a little while to get up, right? And if you constantly swap weapons, you're not going to be able to get them all up in time for like what you're doing for quests and whatnot. So what I ended up doing is sticking with just 2 weapons and using only those 2, even though I feel like I messed up on my build, which kind of blows because, like, I want to be able to try other stuff too, even if it's a bit later, which they do allow. It's just you're not going to do as much statistically compared to what you originally had with you. So I'm hoping he covers like some way to like fix that, or probably there isn't a fix to that.
Circle, the second weapon to the second circle, and you can alternate between them as you see fit. And most importantly, make sure to open your K bar and change the skills in there, including your block. If you're a dagger user, that's a side note, equip the block from the dagger,
Daggers.
as it will help you with the mana issues early on. Now, with all of those things out of the way, let's get into the actual guide. So, starting with, we have questing. And that is your process of hitting level 50. So there are two ways of, or two things to do when it comes to questing. Obviously the main story, and then
the dungeon at the same time.
Keeping in mind that exploration is very important in this game. For the sake of the open beta though, they already mentioned that they will reduce the XP drastically so that people can level up faster and make the most out of their open beta. So my recommendation would be to simply
that's
stick to your
interesting.
story,
Okay.
do only your main story, and then whenever you get stuck, if you even get stuck, depending on how they run it in the beta, then you can basically come to these exploration quests. But do keep in mind,
I mean, beta's
that
over now.
you need to make sure
But
that if
I
you
did
have
get
any
stuck a
exploration
couple
quests,
times.
Whenever you get into an area, the way to unlock them,
I get
you need to
lost
basically
because I
interact
forget
with
where
the
the quest
teleporter
is.
of said area, and then that will unlock the blue quests for you once you unlock the area. All you need to do is over here, where it shows you the stuff, you need to press the star icon next to the blue quest in the area so that you can pin it and be able to visually see it as well. Or you can press J if you missed that for whatever reason, and then simply like find the quest in here and press the star icon in here as well. Those two work, and that's all
You know,
fine.
I should have
For
known that.
release, however, because the XP
That's a
will
good
be
tip.
normal,
That's a
what
very
you
good
should
tip.
be doing is, if you're a hardcore player, once again, still stick to the story until you get to the part where you unlock the guild, and then do the purple quests alongside the blue quests. However, this is very important, and this is something that you will need to learn by playing the game yourself. You need to avoid specific blue quests, but a TLDR is do the ones that are in your way and avoid the ones that make you go out of your way. That's like the quick TLDR. Otherwise, I would have to make a whole guide about the blue quest. Now, second of the gear.
Which
In
quest
this
to
game,
avoid?
This is like kind of not the typical gearing process of other games or other MMOs. Gray gear, which is your starting gear in this game, is still very important.
Someone is stomping on
is because you
above
want
me.
to
What the heck was
upgrade it
that?
Still, so when you start the game, you'll start with gray gear like this, common, level 0, whatever you want to call it. So in most MMOs, this gear is just like trash. You throw it, you don't care about it. In TL, however,
Man, his character
early
looks like
on
he
in
had
the
a
game,
bad
you
day.
need to make sure to
Did he get
level up
divorced?
every single gray gear piece in your inventory, all the way to level
No,
3,
he just
level
came
3
back
being
from
the
Game of
max
Thrones,
gray gear.
obviously.
So as you progress through the story, make sure to always level up your gear like this. For example, I have these 4 pieces here.
Yeah, and then you
Simply, can
transfer
either take this
afterwards.
box or ignore this box, whatever you like, and let it level up. Like
Once
this.
you're done with the gear, just
There's
transfer
no
to your
failure.
new
It is
gear.
just a matter of RNG, how much XP you end up earning. But regardless, you just earn XP until you get it to level 3. And you do that for every single piece, including your weapons. Now, why do you do that? Because once you get your green gear, you equip your green gear, and then you transfer the gray gear into the green gear. So once you equip your green gear and replace the gray one, the starting one, you can then transfer
That way
the
you don't
XP
waste
from the
materials.
+3
It's
gray
better than
into
dissolving your
the
gear
level 0
or putting it in your
+0
book.
green for additional levels, which basically saves you some mats on the green item. And then you can do the same for the green, knowing fully well that green is level 6 max, and then you can transfer it into your purple, which goes up to +9, by the way. So this is basically kind of the way the game works. You always want to level up your gear to the max.
Does anyone
and
know
then
if
once
purple
you
is the highest
exchange
gear
it for
level?
something else, transfer that level over. Do keep in mind, however, if you get like a really good piece, let's say you get a purple item and you're still sitting on a green, and that item, like the purple item, is needed, and it's
I haven't
advantage
seen
to
anything
equip
higher,
it,
but
and your blue
I don't know
gear
if
at
that's
that
just
time
because we're at
is
the
not
beginning.
maxed out yet, which is level 6. Just leave it in your inventory, passively upgrade it whenever you can, and then later transfer it to your purple. But do not throw away your gear. Do not transfer it before it's maxed.
And
because
do
that will
not
waste
put it in your
mats
book.
and will require you to spend even more mats and solant in the future, which will be really bad for you. I hope that made sense. Third on this list is your stats. Now, with the stats,
this is
the way
important.
they made the stats work is that every milestone you unlock, 30, 40, 50, 60, you get extra effects, as you can see. So my recommendation is any weapon in the game while leveling, I would recommend you go dexterity all the way to 30, as that will make your leveling faster and a lot easier. But the only exception is if you're running great sword or sword and shield, then I recommend strength. You'll see some people recommending 30 dexterity even even if you're running those, especially if you're running Great Sword, which is totally fine. If you're running Great Sword Dagger, you can still go for
Yep.
the 30 dexterity. But I've personally noticed that strength tends to just be better. That is my
If you're
own
tanking, you
feeling
would just
about
go
it, to be
strength.
honest. But you can feel free to do either. Both are totally fine. So once you hit a point in the game, you will unlock the contract merchant exactly over
It's
here. So you will get
for me personally, when he was talking about the stats, if you're going to be a DPS, let's say you have a DPS great sword instead of the tank great sword, since yes, there is a thing between the two and it depends which one you choose and how you build. So let's say you had the DPS great sword and the 2 daggers. Your role would actually be as a DPS then. So you would go with the dexterity more so than the strength. However, if you were running, like, let's say sword and shield plus a great sword, then your great sword better be the one that's meant for tanking, like HP regen or something, or HP max. And then you would also try to put up strength. Easy and simple, right? That's my personal preference, and I'm sure that's a great insight to how to play with the stats. If I'm wrong, let me know, but it hasn't let me down during the open beta.
to this point where you'll speak to this contract manager, and the game is going to ask you to pick 4 different contracts. Now, the way you should go on about this is that when you open the contract page, if you see an accessory, pick that one up. So this is how the accessories look. This is for the weapons, and this is for the armor. You can even see it if you hover on them. Pick the accessory. So let's say for the sake of this video, I'm gonna be accepting this one. I can then refresh after accepting one. And then if I see another accessory, you should pick that
that's
up as well.
cool.
So try to get as many accessories as possible to be able to craft every single accessory, because I recommend crafting full accessories early on for 2 reasons. 1, it will boost your combat power more, and 2, you will be able to get mana regen, because in this game, sadly, the early game has very bad mana issues.
Oh,
and
yeah.
if you craft like 2 to 3 pieces
I do struggle
mana
with that,
regen
especially if you're running
accessories,
dual
that will
daggers.
kind of help you with these mana issues. Keep in mind though, for accessories,
I think the reason why mana regen is so harsh in the beginning for certain classes is because you're constantly, I believe dexterity was it, where your cooldown reduction for skills is less, so you're able to use the skills more often, right? I don't think they took that into consideration, or maybe they did, and that's why you gotta get that mana regen. Basically, what I'm saying is, I agree with him. Mana regen is very hard to come by in the beginning. Even if you were to try to get all the stuff, you'll still end up like actually not using, or you'll actually end up still running low on mana in like dungeons and stuff. Dungeon runs or sustained fighting runs.
you start at green. There is no gray accessories. And for the cape, same thing, you start at green. Which leads me to the second point. When you also get to a point
got
where
Shaman's
you are
Cloak.
asked to craft gear, make sure to craft your cape first, because you're gonna have all these here as gray, but this space over here will be empty. So the first item
always
you
go
would
for
want to
items that
craft
are
is
empty.
the green cape to kind of like fill all the circles.
Try
that
to
are
balance
empty
the
for more
lowest to the
power as well.
highest.
So that is how you should
Prioritize
go on
wherever
about
is
it, and
lowest.
then after that you can do whatever you wish, or ask me over Twitch what stats you would need for whatever you are playing. After you are done with the contracts, you will earn a token for this contract merchant. You will earn this currency here called contract coin. And the game will also teach you how to come to this NPC and teach you about this contract merchant. You will not have this much early on, of course, but however, if you are in a hardcore guild, or you care about like your guild being the top ranking, you must buy all these mystic keys as
And
soon
you
as
must spend
can.
all
I'll
your
explain
cash.
how to use those later, but those are very important. If you don't have a hardcore guild, or you don't care about your guild ranking or whatever it may be, then you can start with whatever you need. And if you need like some more gray upgrades, go for them, then green, then blues. And even when you're done, by the way, you can still buy those, all of them, every single day, so that you can use the lower ones to craft the bigger ones. And at the same time, you can dissolve.
You know, that's actually kind of funny. I didn't know what Mystic Keys even did, and I just bought those first. Like, I'm not even a hardcore player, and that's what I bought first, because I'm like, oh look, there's something that looks completely different from the rest, I should get that. I don't know. I feel like I'm not the only person that does that. Go for the unique items.
Dissolve the bigger ones, like the blue ones, for example. You can dissolve those to get green ones to gray ones, and so on and so forth. So these are always going to be useful as long as your gear is not capped. Now back to the Mystic Keys. So as you can see here in this footage, when you are running around the map, on the map you will see a small circle, like white circle, and that is an indicator that you have a Mystic Glob in the area. That's what it's called. So if you open your map, you'll be able to see also how many keys you have on the top right. And basically when you go interact with those globs, you get some random stuff which you can also put into your lithograph book, which I will touch on in a minute. And in some instances you might get a pop-up in the middle of your screen like you see over here, which will basically indicate that you found a bigger glob which does not consume a key. What you need to do is open your map. You will see an area that is highlighted in blue, and that basically gives you like an indicator of the vicinity that you need to look for that RNG glob. Keep in mind they spawn always in the same places once you get to know which one is which, but generally speaking you run around that circle until you get a notification that you're close to it, and usually it's on a high ground. Now after you got those pieces, sometimes or a lot of the times you get things that you can feed into your lithograph, which takes me back to the lithograph book once again. So in the lithograph book you can fill these lithograph books to earn rewards. Do not feed anything in here outside of green, that gray gear that you don't need obviously, but anything green and above, do not feed it unless you know what you're doing, because sometimes, let's say for example you have green item, you could use that for trading, whether on your green gear, or you could also use it on the blue gear if you have the same trade. And you can go back and refer to my trades video. I had a trade guide made so that you can check.
We can trade for free? We don't have to pay to trade?
After you're done with these gray ones, you get these rewards. Another thing to keep in mind is that for the accessories specifically, you will get to a point in the game where it will ask you as an appendix, it's called appendix mission, to basically make one full collection. So it will take you to this quest here where if you craft these 4 rings, which you can craft, you can get this blue lithograph. And keep in mind this lethal portion ring is one of the best, if not the best ring in the game, for
even though it's blue.
A lot of different weapon choices. So this is basically what you will need these things for, and this is how the lithograph book works as a quick TLDR about it. Next on this list we have,
or maybe it was purple. I wasn't paying attention.
At level 20. So basically when you hit level 20 you unlock something called Paula's Dimension, which will take you to Vienta Village. So when you go to Vienta Village, you have Paula's Dimension that will be unlocked at level 20. It used to be level 30, but now they made it level 20. So the quest will lead you all the way over here.
Oh, is this the place you queue for those dungeons all the time?
And once you get to this NPC, she will teach you about Paula's Dimension, and she will teach you about your instance dungeons.
Yes, yes it is.
Over here.
Co-op dungeon.
Basically, these are the dungeons that you will unlock. My recommendation for you is do the one in the appendix that the game asks you to do, which is this one. If and only if you have a party ready to go, unless you don't care about like leveling as fast as possible and all that, feel free to do whatever. You can even like party board or match make to get a fast queue and choose whatever rule you want. But if you care about leveling up as fast as possible, either you have a party ready to play together, or you skip this altogether and come back to it later. However, regardless of whether you are a hardcore player, a semi-hardcore, or a casual, do this once and don't do more, because doing a dungeon, once you open a chest,
only
you consume
once?
these tokens here, the dimensional contract tokens,
What?
which you can save up to 4,500 maximum. You can do the dungeons as many times as you want, but once you open a chest, it consumes this, and once you go into the negative only once, you will not be able to open any chests until the next day, which means you can run the dungeon but not earn the reward. So the reason you should run this only once, the level 20, and not touch this ever again until level 50, is to save these points to make use of them on the level 50 dungeons, as this is going to be your...
I'm so confused. I thought you get EXP for just running the dungeons, even if you don't open the chest. Was that wrong? I thought that was the case. Guys, is this wrong? Am I right? What? Huh? I'm so confused. But also, I will say, for the first part that he did, right here, the Roaring Temple, don't do that one in the beginning when the game comes out officially. Don't do that one unless you have to. If you're playing randomly with people, don't do that one. If you have a party finder of people that already cleared it, then sure, feel free to do it multiple times. But that one is like so awareness heavy and you have to constantly like have good teamwork for that one. That let's just say, even if you were to match in a party with like randoms in the beginning, let's say, the chances of you succeeding is 1 out of 20. Yeah, it's that big of a difference. It's crazy.
Once, you will not be able to open any chests until the next day, which means you can run the dungeon but not earn the reward. So the reason you should run
The
this
mechanics
only
are just like really
once,
hard.
level 20, and not touch this. Let's talk about the contract.
Oh, whoops.
Now,
I think I went
contracts,
too
we
far.
Explained how they work in game per the level 20 and not touch this ever again until level 50
Okay, here we go.
is to save these points to make use of them on the level 50 dungeons, as this is going to be your main or one of the main ways to grind your end game purple gear. So keep that in mind. After that, now you hit level 50, you got everything needed. So let's talk about the contract. Now, contracts, we already explained how they work, and my recommendation, same thing, do not touch the contracts unless you are absolutely gated and you have nothing else to do. And even then, I would
I'm not
recommend you
gated,
still
you're
go do the blue
gated.
quests, as we mentioned, the exploration quests, and keep in mind that even if you hit a wall, you can always go to a higher zone that you didn't reach yet, unlock the teleport point, which will unlock the blue quests for you. But I recommend in those instances, if it's like a little bit high for you, take some friends with you or guildmates or whatever, so that you guys can grind together and level up together. But if, let's say, you hit a wall and you can't do that, simply do the contract.
How big are guilds, by the way? Do you guys
By
know?
the time you hit level 50, you should have about
curious.
120 in here. Keep in mind though, it stacks only to 60, normally speaking. The only exception is while leveling up, they overstack. And only if you also, because daily you refresh 10 contracts.
Oh, I'm
If you
standing
leave it
on
at
the
59,
energy right there.
Then you get 69 contracts the next day. All of that aside though, keep in mind that once you hit level 50, this is the number one thing you need to do. You want to avoid hitting the refresh while at 120, because then you will not get the 10 extra the next day. So you want to lower this as much as you can, preferably to 59 at least. If you have the time, do more than that, but preferably get it to 59 at least, so that you get the 10 refreshes, which sets you at 69, and then keep running at them as much as you can, because these are just like free upgrades for, let's say, your green gear.
That's
going
gonna be hard to remember, to be honest. Plus, it's like a daily and stuff.
Another thing that's
I don't.
very important, which I hope shows
It's
right
too much
now, is
work,
that
man.
you
I
accept
hate
one,
dailies.
this is
I
what you
have
should do,
I
by
have
the
stuff
way.
to
You
do.
accept
I have
one,
work
then
and
you
stuff.
refresh, and then you accept another one, and then you refresh once again. And then every time you accept a contract, make sure to refresh, and maybe if you get lucky, you will get a bag. It should be like a purple icon. Sadly, I didn't get it right now to show it, but it's a purple bag. It gives you like some kind of RNG. Try to always take those whenever you find them, stack them, and open like 10, 20, 30 in one go, because those can yield very good results, and in some cases, business slot items even for you. Contracts aside, tier 1, as I mentioned, is going to be mostly your grind. I'm not sure if we're going to have challenge even in the beta, let alone tier 2, but tier 1 is going to be your main grind. This is where you get most of your gear. You need to figure out.
I only
what
saw a
you are
couple
aiming
people at
for
level
and get
50,
the
to be
gear
honest.
from the tier 1
But they're just like,
dungeons. Outside
I'm
tier
at
1
level
dungeons,
50,
you
come
will
at me,
have
bro.
also
Come
traits.
PvP
So
me.
as you
Show me what you
unlock
got.
Items, we touched on the traits earlier.
That's
like
them, by
just
the
as
way.
term. So as you unlock an item, you have traits that you need to unlock as well. Now keep in mind there are 2 systems for traits. I'm not sure if
Let
we're
me
gonna
show
have
you
the
why
new
girls
system,
don't
but
like
I'm gonna
me.
still like showcase it real quick, which you can still see in my video. So basically, if you have this icon over here, or here if you don't have a trait, you can simply click on this and it will ask you to choose a trait based on the unlock stones you have. This is in case we have this system in the beta. If we have the older version, then I would recommend you go back to my trait system, but a quick TLDR is if you have an item you want to unlock a trait for, you need the exact same item with the trait you want to unlock. Now if you want to level up the trait, then you need any item. In the case of weapons, you need any weapon that has the trait that you already have and you want to level up, and that weapon needs to be either the same tier, which is like purple, or one tier lower, which in this case, for example, blue, and then you can try to level up. But if it's one tier lower, you get only a 10% chance to succeed, and if you fail, it increases this blessing, which you can use later for a guaranteed upgrade. I know it might be a little confusing.
Yeah, that is a little
then you go back to
confusing.
my YouTube channel and
But
find the trades
basically,
guide,
I
and
think he's
then go
saying
from there. Trades
it
aside,
just
though,
needs
you
the same
also
stat
have the
and
open
near
world
the same
dungeons.
tier.
Open world dungeons are something that I don't recommend you really waste your time on outside of world bosses and outside of, like, let's say you're already done with everything. Then you can run through these, or if you lack Solent, because they're very good for soul and grind and losing grind. You have 4 dungeons and they are represented in this way. So you can see one here, for example, one here. The one that is very important though is Saradoma.
I might be honest. I might be very honest. I'm actually one of those players that do not do endgame. Like, sure, there's an appeal to endgame, but why would I do endgame when I could go play another game that has a whole nother journey ahead of me? You know what I mean? Some people will have to do it though because they're competitive, but also, it's not me. If I want to be competitive, I go on a more competitive-esque game that doesn't rely on your pay-to-win aspect. At least I believe it requires pay-to-win, because you have to use the auction house to get like good stuff too, huh? Well, anyways, continuing video. Don't want to get too heated into it.
PvP, and at night, well, every dungeon becomes PvP at night, but Saradoma Island has chests that spawn around the map.
Every dungeon becomes PvP at night?
If you manage getting
Are you serious?
the later the chest as well during the 30 minutes marker, the higher the rewards.
Forced
And you can
PvP.
end up getting like extra entries for dungeons or extra tokens for open world dungeon grind, and those are very important and very competitive. Once again, this is also your soul and grind and your losing grind, and if you don't want to PvP at all, do it only in the morning, which is 2 hours day in the game and 1 hour at night in the game. Now, let's say
I mean, obviously, why would I want to do PvP when I already have the PvP IRL?
Whether we have the old system or the new system. I'll go with the assumption that we have the old system.
I'm trying to
first,
take a
and
break,
that
man.
means open world dungeon is your main master grind, and depending on what version we get of the game, you might be able to get it all the way to level 13.
Oh, I'm
or 10.
thinking.
We don't know yet, but if you get the new system,
I'm thinking about actually changing my gear in game. I was a DPS. I was a great sword plus daggers. I'm actually thinking about changing to longbow and the wand plus book, the healing thing. Like, I kind of want to go support. I don't know. What do you guys think? I feel like there's a lot of DPS already. But how am I going to do progression for the story then if I am a healer? That's something I need help with. And I hope someone in the comments will be able to help me with that answer.
system, then you get these points over here from contracts and other stuff that I also mentioned in one of my previous videos, which you can also check, and those will level up your mastery a lot faster. Regardless, open world dungeon is still a very good place to go to if and only if you already did, like, let's say your dungeons, all that kind of stuff. Mastery aside though, we also have the events. Events entitled
I heard those are
which
very
happens
important.
every 3 hours. As you can see here, for example, this one happened, then 1, 2, 3, and then you have also peace events and
Like, do
dominion
them
events.
as soon as
Dominion events are
possible.
like these kind of PvP events where if you join, you get pushed into
Like if you're
one
near it,
random
I mean.
alliance out of red, blue, and green, I think. And basically, you PvP with random factions. You don't see the name of enemies. They don't see your name. You don't see their logo. It's kind of like to avoid Xerix and all that kind of stuff. And also, it's a fun little PvP event. If you don't want to do any PvP, just go to the peace one. And also, the GVG is for your guild if you want to do that. Alongside those events, there are also world bosses, which are also come in peace and PvP. Now, a few tips when it comes to these kinds of events. First of all, while leveling, the beta is not an accurate representation of how fast these events unlock or how fast you level up even altogether. But for release specifically, as you are leveling up, these events are going to be locked behind Milestone. Milestone is a system that this game has, which basically shows you what event is going to unlock based on what goals and what amount of hours. And this is how everything works in this game. It's
That's
locked behind
interesting.
milestones, but I don't think you're going to see this system in the beta. This is something more for release. As you are leveling up on release, you must
Look at the
make
pain.
sure to do the events as they unlock early on while level up, because not only are they a good source of XP, they also give you these chests over here, for example, that give you like skill books or parchments to craft skill books.
Skill books
which
are very
will
important. Get
translate
those.
into skill books that you can use to level up your skills, and that is going to be very important. Now, outside of that, that, you have the world bosses and you have the arc bosses.
I didn't get to do a world boss.
My
I'm so
recommendation or my tip
envious.
for this is always find a PvE boss that you guys need as a guild, because this loot is gated behind the guild system. You can still participate if you don't have a
Really?
guild, but you can't get the item as it must go to a guild.
I have to
and
tell my
then
friend
it
that.
goes to the guild storage, and then whatever guild
Bruh.
system you have, you decide how this guild
That's
loot is
so
going to get
stupid.
distributed, whether it's guild bosses or world bosses. Now, my recommendation here is to go to a peaceful one that your guild needs, like majorly a lot of people need it in your guild. And then once you're done with the peace, if you are a PvP person, go to the PvP one. The reason I say this is because for peace events or peace world bosses, you can only do one, because there are gates that open in place of each boss in the area that it shows you on the map, and you can interact with one of the gates to enter before the first 5 minutes mark. So let's say, for example, this one is happening at 7 a.m. Then you have until 4:59, like 4 minutes 59 seconds, to be able to enter. The moment it hits the 5 minutes mark, the gates will close and you will not be able to do any other PvE boss. That's why you need to find one of those that you want to do, get into the gate as soon as possible before the 5 minutes mark, do the boss, leave, and then go to the PvP ones, because those are more competitive. And not only are they more competitive, you can try to also kill the enemy guild.
I assume that takes longer then.
For the loot yourself. And most importantly, if there are multiple PvP bosses happening at the same time,
that's interesting that you do
attend
both.
every single one of them, as long as they are up after you take one down. So let's say, for example, this one is excavator over here. Let's say you go attend that one, the boss is down, and by the time this boss is down, this one is still up, then you can go do that one as well. But PvE, you can only do one as long as you enter the gate before the 5 minutes mark, and then move to PvP if you would like to do that. This is in terms of the world bosses and the arc bosses.
That's very interesting. That's I hate that, but it also makes sense because they want to make it competitive, right? Competitive, be like, it's kind of like Black Desert, isn't it? Where you spend cash and then you're like, all right, I'll be able to do better next time in PvP and whatnot. I feel like it's the same. It's like progression, PvP progression. So basically, if you win PvP more often, you'll progress faster for your character and whatnot. Since I'm a casual, I'm just gonna do PvE. But looking at the game like that kind of hurts, to be honest. But it also makes sense. Like, you're not gatekept from progressing, thankfully. You're not forced into PvP that I know of so far, thankfully. It's just it's gonna take longer for you to progress, which kind of blows, but makes sense, so I'm fine with it.
Just keep in mind, world bosses, as you can see, happen at different intervals during the day, both peace and PvP. Arc bosses, however, we have 2 arc bosses in the game. You might see one of them or both of them in the beta, but for release, they happen every week. One of them happens on Wednesday and the other happens on Saturday, but that is only on Korean servers. We don't know like if global will be the same days or not. Outside of all those things, we also have Siege, which is bi-weekly, and Tax Delivery, which is bi-weekly. I'm not going to touch on those though, because we're not going to have them in the beta, and I will give you an updated version about them closer to release in case any massive changes happen with this. Now, I think this is it for almost all of the systems. I don't think I've missed anything. There's also cross-server PvP, which is tied to boons and rifts, which reminds me we need to discuss boon stones and rift stones. But either way, I'm not going to discuss the cross-server PvP because it's not going to be in the beta, and I will make a video about it later down the line. However, for boons and rift stones, these are going to be available in the open beta, and basically boon stones and rift stones.
So keep an eye on his channel, because I would assume he's going to make that an everything you need to know video, like an everything you need to know before the game officially releases is probably what he's gonna make, right? So be sure to check him out, give him a sub, and keep following him. See if he even makes it. Calling it now, he will.
Are the same thing fundamentally with one minor difference. So for boons and rifts, whenever you go compete one, now the way this works, it used to be Zergable in the past, now it's only 1v1, so you need to apply beforehand to whichever one you want through the occupation. And as you can see here, you get 3 choices to apply to, and then it decides based on your guild ranking. If nobody applied to it that is higher than you, if 2 guilds
that's
kind
of
higher than you in ranking,
you know, I just totally realized a lot of the stuff is locked behind guilds, including like the PvP stuff. So you can't just make a guild for friends. You have to let randoms and stuff also join. You can't just have like your friend group of 6 people, let's say, No, you need like a big group. You gotta try to make the big groups. You can't just like make your own tiny one and hope that you'll do well. Which kind of blows, but I also kind of like it. Because it kind of reflects real life, don't it? Like when you're getting a job, right? Let's say that you go in for your first week. Everyone there is friends, but you're still new. You're the new employee, so like it's up to you whether you're gonna be their friends or just an associate or someone that's loses their job. And that's basically what a guild is in this. You go into the guild as a stranger. You can make friends with them or enemies or just be there to fill in their numbers. Same concept, just different place.
Then it takes you to the second, then the third, until you have one that matches your ranking that nobody is applying for outside of other people that are in your ranking. So you end up doing 1v1 for the boon or the rift.
Also, is it
and
just
you
me or does he
basically
kind of
get-
look like
if you end up
Jacksepticeye?
winning, You get this, for example, stat for every single member in the guild, which is heavy attack chance. That's one of the best stats in the game. You also get these every hour, which are resources for your guild. And this is where the difference comes in for the rifts and
But
the
like
boons.
from
Boons are the exact
2012.
same thing as this, but the rift stone, what it does as well is it gives you access to one boss every single day, like guild boss only for the guild. The loot is only for the guild every single day until the next rift stone where you have to compete again. So if you win the rift stone, let's say this one is for Kuwazan, so this will give you access to the Kuwazan war boss in case your guild needs that one, for example. So every single day you just go to this stone, interact with it with your guild, get in, do the boss, get out, and do it again the next day. That is how rift stones work. And you would need to see which rift stone you want based not only on stats but also on loot, because if you win it you'll be able to get the boss. So you need to see which rift stone matches the boss that you would like to do as well. A quick few things that I forgot to mention, by the way. I thought I would still add them for you towards the end so that I don't leave you out on anything. When it comes to the Mystic Glob keys that I discussed, those are very important because of the fact that they earn a contribution and that is for
Contribution?
your guild. Same thing for contracts. The more contracts you do, the more contribution you get, which is also good for your guild. And open world dungeons, whenever you do not have
Okay.
anything to do, simply grinding them.
So basically what he's saying is join a guild as soon as possible and try to stay in that guild. Try to commit to the guild that you join as much as possible. So look for a big guild and hope you don't get kicked out. Which kind of blows because like that means just like real life you're competing to stay in like that clan, that job, that whatever, the career. It kind of sucks to see it that way, but it's always been that way in like guilds that I've known. So yeah, find that guild and
Once
work
again,
hard.
earns you more contribution, which is also good for your guild. And lastly, the guild systems, which I completely forgot to touch on, which I think is very important for guilds that want to compete, is that you have these guild contracts. This one is once a day. This one is also once a day. They can stack. I'm not sure what the cap was, to be fully honest, because we tend to do them on a daily basis anyway. So these ones get only one a day, and this one is one a day. And as you can see, this one is an open world dungeon, which is Sardoma Island. This one is an event. So ideally, you would want to make sure you send your guild to the open world dungeon as a guild. You can get this done in 5 minutes if you go as a guild.
Really?
As one only. And for the events, you can also take your guild to the event just once or twice. And that
So what
should
happens if
also
you
get it
don't
done for
go
you.
as a
Or you
guild?
can simply refresh it if it's something that you don't like or something that people don't tend to do. For example, Sardoma Island is good to keep because a lot of people do it. Celis Abyss is kind of annoying, so most people tend to avoid it and refresh it, even though I still recommend to go as a guild. But if you're on a less active guild, then definitely refresh it and get Sardoma Island or Shadow's Crypt. Those are very easy to do, even as an individual. Those, however, are like kind of, or actually unlimited. You can refresh them as much as you want, but there is a limit to how many times you can refresh. I think it was 15. However, you can do these as many times as needed. So whenever you have a free time, you have nothing to do, I recommend you go and assist your guild. And if you don't know what this is, you just click on it and it will show you all the places that have
Spend
the
all day
choice
grinding,
that is
guys.
being asked
Work for your
whether
guild.
it's this or Plantaria, same
Forget
thing,
your
but
job.
preferably as a
Work
guild
for a
leader
guild
or
that's,
officer or
you're
advisor,
working for
you would
free.
want to refresh this and try to go for the one that says defeat any monster, because then everybody in in your guild is doing it actively, whether they want to or not, because it's just that simple. That is in terms of the guild contracts. Now, guild skills, this is where the mats come into play. This is why your job as a guild member is to donate to the guild and make sure to get these mats up, because this will allow your guild to use these things for you. And also that will earn you guild coins the same way that if you participate in guild stuff, you also get
so
these things as well. So when you do guild contracts, you earn those. When you do guild donations, you earn those. And then you can use those on the guild merchant.
It's
Guild
like you're
merchant
living
is
in the game.
basically
That's
your
crazy.
go-to for things like the potions, because the potions are only accessible through the guild merchant, which I'll show you in a minute. So you must make sure that you're always donating to your guild to make sure that you can access this guild merchant, which is in almost every single major city. And then through this merchant, you can buy these potions or these HP potions, or most importantly, these mana potions on a daily basis. And when it comes to the arc boss Queen Billender, you need these potions because she has a mechanic where when she does like a big AoE that leaves like poison stacks on you, you need to use this to get rid of that poison. Now, this is in terms of guilds. The rest are systems that you will need to get familiar with as you play, that I cannot show you right now as I'm not a guild leader in Korea anymore. But yeah,
Rest
those
in
are like
peace.
the things you need to be familiar with. Secondly, that I also forgot to mention is the contracts that are weekly. Now, I'm not sure if we're gonna get the new system or the old system, but if it's the new system, then over here you will see there are Tados Tower contracts that are weekly, and you can get 3 of them, which give you access to do secret dungeons. Once you open the contract, you can get 3 random ones, and if you do them, you get a lot of upgrade material, and you can simply use it in your inventory. It should
You know
look
what?
like
I'm
this,
surprised
and
you
can
didn't
use it from here.
talk
If
about
you don't have
yet.
access to that, there are still
Actually, I don't
contracts that you
even-
need to be aware of.
Wait.
You need to go to Castleton first of all to
Oh my
this-
gosh, he doesn't even talk about it. This is a special tips and tricks video basically, and he doesn't really talk about the skills and stuff. Huh. Isn't that like one of the most important things besides the like world like what to do in the world? Cuz how are you going to even progress and get to those points if you don't even have that, right? I feel like that's some of the stuff that should have been touched on in the very beginning, but it wasn't. Just bugs, EXP gear, stats. Yeah, he doesn't touch on the skills or like the special transformation. Interesting.
Sundry's Merchant, and then from the Sundry's Merchant you can buy these weekly contracts over here. Let me show you over here. So if you talk to this merchant over here, you have these here, which you can buy 6.
Maybe it's in
of
another
each
one of his
every single
videos.
week. These are for
Maybe
the
he already
open
said that
world
and just
dungeons,
I wasn't
and
paying
whenever you are
attention.
doing the open world dungeon grind, you should
Probably.
always have those up,
I am
as
that
those
dumb.
are very beneficial and grant you some
My
RNG bags
smooth
that are
brain.
also good for
Look at how
loot
tiny
if
my
you're
head
lucky.
is.
And the second one is in Viente Village, because there are, as I mentioned, 4
Okay, I mean,
open
my head's
world
bigger than my
dungeons. So you
body,
need
but-
6 2 dungeons from Castleton, and from the Viente Village you can also
It's
get the
basically
other 6,
empty.
because those are different
It
as
echoes
well.
inside,
and
like
with that,
dun,
you have a
dun,
total
dun.
of 4 different dungeons, 6 each, and as you can see, you can even accumulate them if you are lazy and you want to do them at some point. And when you open one of them, you can also refresh it if, let's say, it gives you something you don't like. You can refresh it, but overall they give you these over here. This one is the RNG bag. The more you stack, the higher the chances you might eventually get like even business law items that you might need. And for these are like, think of them as pity coins. And when you have 80
Oh,
of this,
pity
you can then
coins.
craft whatever
That's what
you
he
need
said.
that you couldn't get with these tokens out of the open world dungeon stuff. Like, let's say we're eyeing
What I
any
thought he
item
said was,
that exists in the open world dungeon.
something else.
Then you can just craft it from here using those tokens. I sadly don't remember which ones exactly are available as options, but regardless, you can then craft
I
them.
don't know why I
from
lost my
here
track here for a
and-
second.
Oh yeah, here, okay. So you can craft them from the materials here. You can choose the weapons you want or the items you want, whatever you want out of the open world dungeons using these 80 tokens. So keep in mind, whatever open world dungeon you do, whatever open world dungeon contract you do, as long as you just get the 80, you can craft any of your choice over here for the items that you would like to get. And these chests are not RNG. You choose the item from the chest based on what you want. And that leads me to the second point. Whenever you are doing the tier 1 stuff as well, you earn these pity tokens as well. So as you get these done over here, you can also use these pity tokens to craft whatever you need. So for example, let's say you didn't get lucky with the Palace Dimension, you earn these as well from the tier 1 dungeons, and once you get 40, you can craft the Palace Dimension chest, which grants you the weapons for tier 1, which are very good because you can also use this method for unlocking more traits. Now let's say you want a
Interesting.
piece of gear that you couldn't drop, for example, then same thing, you can use the tokens for that as well. And if you're lost at any point, you can simply click the item of your choice, and then it will tell you view usage over here, and then it can show you what you can get out of it. So basically you can craft this over here using the pity pieces alongside these like things that you can get it very easily. This is like pretty much every single system in a nutshell. I hope I didn't forget anything, but however, even if I did, feel free to ask me anything you want down in the comments, or hop on my Twitch.
That was pretty
every
cool.
single day, and during the beta I'll also be doing a 24-hour stream on day 1, and I'll be streaming
24-hour.
So definitely hop on Twitch, ask me any questions you may have, and I'm more than happy to help. And most importantly, I have
Did
more
I
guides coming
accidentally
up your way very soon, so keep an eye out on that. And with that out of the way, stay safe as usual.
I think I didn't know this. I didn't know that was a thing on YouTube, but apparently if you hold forward or hold on a video on the right side, it like speeds it up. That was funny. Oh, I love that. Well, that was a interesting, very informative video. Lots of stuff I feel like was left out, but that's fine. If you guys could maybe try to help me with my answers too. I hope the stuff that I mentioned also helps. But really, I'm just hoping that everyone can get along in the PvE side and not get too toxic because of PvP. That's what like destroyed Black Desert Online. And I'm hoping that doesn't happen to this. I heard this game completely flopped in Korea though, so there's a possibility. So we'll see. I don't even know why they brought this over or globally if it failed so hard in Korea. We'll see. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time with hopefully more Throne in Liberty. Bye bye.